This is The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Heisman, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking how one day to exit stage left. Guys, special guest here, great friend of mine, Ladell Hill.
Thank you.
Molecular health specialist. What a great title. I want to get into your history, Ladell, and why people and why the viewers today should really lean into this episode. But before I do, not just take my word for it, you have a list of celebrity clients that you've worked with for years. They choose to work with you for a number of reasons. You're very humble, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, I can talk about it. Let me speak to the camera because I want everyone out there to pay very, very close attention. A lot of the people that you watch on television, they're no different than you and I. They have to take good care of their health because health takes precedence over any and everything else. So let's just understand that. So I've worked with Steve Harvey, Martin Lawrence, consulted with Will Smith. I've worked with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Carlos Santana, Cindy Santana, that's his wife, the drummer.
Absolutely.
So I work with her. I work with a lot of people, man.
Because people hunt you down because of your knowledge. And before we get into that knowledge and talk with talk about this to our audience, talk how this all started. Because this isn't just from you reading textbooks and research. I know the story a little about this heritage from your family.
Right. It's a funny story because I started many years ago. I was around 10 years old, and I always looked up to my grandfather. And you know how we are when we're little boys, we look up to the biggest and the strongest. So it happened to be my grandfather. My grandfather took me under his wing because he couldn't read, write, or drive, a team of mules and a tractor. And he educated me on the principles of staying healthy, big, and strong at a young age. And I used to follow him in the woods, and he used to pick up these roots whenever people would get sick and pull bark off of his property. He went on his property, got all these different medicinal plants, and used to make concoctions with it. So that being said, I just mimicked because I wanted to be like my grandfather. So I started reading a lot of books on vitamins and herbs and things like that. And it wasn't until I met Sanjay Gupta, we become really good friends. And he used to talk to me about diseases, and we used to compare notes. And that's when I started connecting the dots.
Well, you know, it's funny. I remember, didn't you find your grandfather's hat one time?
Still wear it.
You still wear it to this day. I think that was a wonderful topic. So talk about being the entrepreneur that you are, other than the knowledge base that you are. Talk about Taste of Health. What prompted this? What prompted opening up a business like this?
Well, you know, it goes many years back. I would never forget when I was in California, I used to walk around with raw sweet potatoes in my pocket. And people used to laugh at me because I'm coming from Tennessee, a country boy. And they was like, why do you have raw sweet potatoes in your pocket? And why do you just eat them like a carrot? And I said, well, it's because of the certain compounds that it has in it that fulfills my body.
So you're just carrying on raw sweet potatoes like an apple?
And a gallon of water.
And a gallon, of course.
Yes. And so I kind of got tired of people questioning me and why are you eating all these raw plants? You have them in your pocket and things like that. So I started grinding it up in a gallon of water and I started drinking it. And I said, wait a minute, but it still had the chunks in it, so I had to chew. And that releases the enzymes in your saliva that breaks it down. So I'm like, what's wrong with me putting everything together and walking around with my own meals that I know that's gonna help me with my health on a cellular level?
So talk about this, because you not only had, and you said you have to chew it, of course. Taste of Earth, you did create a product.
Choose.
Yeah, Choose as well. So all of this incorporates together.
Yeah, Choose was a chewable juice. And it only made sense to me because I started studying the human body and the process of the human body, and even going back to the indigenous ways, I realized that you have to chew everything that you put in your mouth except water. So when you chew, you release an enzyme that breaks down the things that you're consuming, like fruits and vegetables. They are complex carbohydrates, so it only made sense for me to chew it to prevent my insulin level from spiking up.
So we have to talk about our mutual friend. We're a big partner and friend with Cliff Oxford from Cliff, of course. And I've known Cliff for what seems like a decade. And I remember seeing him a while ago, and he speaks of this publicly, Ladell. And it's important to know that he did not look healthy when I first met him. And you got involved with him, and he looks like a whole different human being. You've made such an impact in other members of the Cliffco community. Talk about, not by name, but talk about what you see from a lot of these entrepreneurs that you work with, where they're focused on their business, but they're not really focused on their health. And I don't know how that one doesn't go hand in glove with the other.
Well, like I stated earlier, health takes precedence over any and everything else in life. So when I come in contact with individuals, I hear what they have to say first, but I look at what's going on because the skin's the largest organ. So when Cliff came to me, I realized that he wasn't providing his organs and cells with the proper nutrients, not a diet, the proper nutrients. And if you dissect the human body, your liver, your organs and cells, they all have to have compounds derived from what our Creator has given us on earth.
Well, you've made a tremendous impact on him, of course, and I know you have for others. So talk about yourself. Other than just eating well, I mean, you wear that shirt well. We laughed about it earlier today, eat for a purpose. It was a comment that you said to me, and I ended up getting you that shirt. Talk about that shirt for a moment.
I love
Talk
this
about
shirt. I wear
the mantra.
I love this shirt. I wear it all the time. Lee got me this shirt because he asked me, what is your favorite slogan? And I told him, eat for a purpose and not the purpose of eating.
Hey, when do you splurge? I have to ask that.
Periodically.
And what do you do when you splurge?
It depends. I consume whatever I want to consume, but I have to have an understanding that if I put it in, I got to get it out. So if you put something that is not the best for your health, but it tastes good for the taste buds, you have to make sure that you consume certain other compounds that it doesn't sit in the body and cause havoc. So
everything has a purpose behind it with you.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a personal question, because I do want to get some more into the business, but when have you done something that is impulsive, that doesn't have a purpose, or you didn't have a plan for it?
Whenever I go and visit my mother on holidays.
So, give me an example of what happened last.
Well, I get up my mother likes to make a lot of sweets. And I will have sweets with the rest of the group, but when everyone's asleep, I get up in the middle of the night and go get some more.
You heard it here.
A lot more.
No one knows this. You heard it here. So in addition to the wellness in terms of the nutrition, which you can't out-exercise your nutrition, of course.
Correct.
But you still exercise a lot. I've had the fortune of working out with you. Of course, you're a machine and it looks that way. But talk about how important movement is as well, because you're not just going into a gym. People might think you hit the gym a lot. More than 60, 70% of your time, you're outside doing things in nature. So talk about the importance of that, because I know you speak of nutrition a lot, but there's a lot of benefits you get to being in nature and being active. Talk about that.
Well, that's how you come in contact with your Creator. You know, everyone needs to do self-care. Self-care, to me, is getting in an environment that you're not accustomed to and allowing it to just happen. And that's why I love going into nature. It has a lot of benefits for me. The different sounds, the air that we breathe, it's just so pure. So if you put yourself in an environment like that and take yourself out of an environment that we're so accustomed to, and that's a lot of distractions, that being in that environment in nature, it tones down what we call the sympathetic nervous system and puts you more in that parasympathetic relaxation. So you don't have the anxiety and depression from being in an environment where there's a lot of noise.
So, you are in a constant, almost meditative state to me. Every time we're together, you are like a sedative for me in a good way, right? Every time we're together. But let me ask you, when is the last time you've lost it? When's the last time, Ladell, that you just lost it and had no control over that sympathetic nervous system?
Well, as I've gotten older, I've realized if I got to lose it, I need to use it productively. So I use it for my workouts. I use it for my bike ride, and I use it for things that need to happen around me or in my life.
So require that loss. Yeah. Okay, so go back to
channel
this.
The energy.
I've had the fortune of working out with you. I also was a part of your program. In addition to the nutrition, you offer a wellness exercise program as well. Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's a movement. So what I'm passionate about is educating people that you may know your environment that you live in, but maybe you don't know your environment that's going on inside. So I try to make sense with it. I try to explain, educate them about the liver, the functions of the liver, the pancreas, every organ, every cell. And then I try to make it relatable to educate them that there's certain foods that we can consume as we age that will counteract some of these abnormalities.
So an intriguing part of your journey, I've had a front row seat to. And I remember years ago, as you're so knowledgeable, you had a great client base, but you had difficulty scaling. And yes. I've noticed over the past 2 years, you're becoming much more successful. You're more the flipper instead of the pinball. right? Before it felt like you were the
Right.
pinball bouncing around. Now it feels like you're controlling your behavior and your activity in your business because you're like, Lee, I'm getting asked to speak here. I'm going and doing these things. Talk about that journey, how it felt before where you didn't have as much control in your career, where it feels like you're getting a lot more control.
Well, it has a lot to do with your track record. And the track record to me means what I learned from my grandfather. He says you have to be a representation of what comes out of your mouth. So I use those principles. And as I do, my name is around the nation about this is the guy that you talk to when it comes to some form of a health abnormality. So it's really about my reputation and what I practice.
So is it true that it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and one incident to ruin a reputation?
That's very true.
Okay,
very
fair.
true.
So what are the next plans for you? What's the next chapter? Because I've watched these chapters unfold in front of me, and you feel, as I said, you look like you're in a much more controlled environment in your business. What's the next chapter?
Well, the next chapter for me is I probably end up writing a book. That would be my next chapter.
Do you have any idea what it would be about, or would it be called, or?
It's as we age, there's certain groups of compounds that we need as we age.
So our body requires different minerals and compounds
Absolutely.
along the way. It's not
Absolutely.
the same from beginning to end.
And a lot of it has to do with genetics. We all know that. But you find out what your weak link is in your body, and then you address it. It's just like if you have a flaw on your body, because we all into this aesthetics nowadays. And that's a whole different topic. I mean, we could talk about the diet pills and things like that, all the quick fixes.
Well, and I do want to talk about that as we
Okay.
wrap up here. Really popular for viewers out there, and we heard it today at the Clifco event. When people lose weight, instead of the old traditional way of just burning more calories than you're actually eating and eating the right ingredients, people are using those products called Ozempic.
Yes.
What's your thought on Ozempic? I'm sure I know the answer, but speak to it.
Well, I'm one of those type of individuals that I like natural things. So if you really get to understand the whole genetic makeup and what the organs require, you will probably start getting away from a lot of these man-made compounds, because if we ingest in so many man-made compounds, it's going to disrupt our balance or homeostasis. So you have to be very, very careful. I've had a few people that have had that or taken it, and they drop weight too fast. And when you drop weight too fast, you can have, you got loose skin. And then I've heard stories and know people that are having a difficult time producing digestive enzymes, because you have to think about it. When you hit 30, if you slow down production of digestive enzymes, then you should not be consuming certain types of food groups and probably shouldn't be eating as much, knowing that your body's not going to break it down. So now you're going to turn around and put some type of synthetic compound in the body. I'm not against it, but I'm not for it.
Fair.
So if you put this man-made compound in the body, it's bound to disrupt something else in the human body.
You're going to pay the effects later down the road.
Absolutely.
So on our final thoughts, as our time just flies by as we're having fun, we could sit here for an hour, of course. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs? Because you said it best, when someone has a flaw or an imperfection, whether it be physically, that they want to work on the weaknesses you mentioned. And I noticed, again, from the moment we met and Cliff providing business advice and guidance, you've always been willing to lean into the parts that you're not strong on.
That's right.
And you've gotten better from it. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs as they're trying to take this entrepreneurial journey you've already done?
Just stay focused. And if there's something internally that you're passionate about, focus is the key, and consistency. And it works all across the board with whatever you do.
So Ladell, a magical man. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Tell, I'm going to have you look into the camera and tell people, how do they get in touch with you?
You can find me on tasteoferarth.com, and you can also find me Ladell Hill, MHS.com.
What does MHS stand for?
Molecular Health Specialist.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, for that title.
Absolutely.
That was wonderful. Ladell, great to see you. It's a shame we have to get you out on the show for you and I to hang out. We need to do this more often.
We do.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope the show was as insightful for you as it was for me. We hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Roadmap.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.